I was on Instagram a while ago and I saw this term that struck a really big chord with me, the lazy perfectionist. When I saw it for the first time, I felt so seen because my whole life I've been struggling with laziness. And even though it did bother me a lot because it did affect me very negatively, I just couldn't seem to do anything about it no matter how hard I tried. I hadn't realized that the very reason why I was so bothered by my laziness and the very reason why I couldn't seem to change my laziness was because of perfectionism, not only that came with the laziness, but was actually the cause of the laziness. Let me explain. When I came across the term lazy perfectionist and took some time to think about it and analyze it a little bit more, the connection to attachment theory became very, very clear. As many of you might already know, the three main types of attachment, if we follow this theory, the attachment theory, are secure attachment, avoidant attachment, and anxious attachment. There is also technically a fourth type called disorganized attachment, but the thing with disorganized attachment is that it represents a very, very small percent of the population. And also it was found that within that very small percentage, it manifests very differently from person to person, so it is a very special case. Although attachment theory was initially theorized to help us deal with and understand interpersonal relationships, it actually, when you think about it, it can be applied to anything that a human cares about because it's about attachment. So yes, it does absolutely apply to your friendships, your family relationships, romantic relationships, but it also very much applies to your attachment and relationship with money, your attachment to success, career, reputation, failures, etc. When we think about the classical, stereotypical perfectionist, we all envision a very type A person who fuels and deals with their perfectionism through stress and relentless organization and action. As such, we can say that the classical perfectionist is anxiously attached to the outcome of their goals. They are an anxious perfectionist, if you will. By that same logic, the lazy perfectionist is actually an avoidant perfectionist. What does this mean? This means that actually the lazy perfectionist, the avoidant perfectionist, is actually as much of a perfectionist as the anxious classical perfectionist, but they deal with their perfectionism a lot differently. Instead of dealing with the fear of potentially not obtaining what they want by trying to do everything they can to make sure that they're going to obtain that thing, what the lazy avoidant perfectionist does is that they deal with that fear by being avoidant, by paralysis, by inaction, by procrastination, and by telling themselves, even convincing themselves that they don't actually want that thing. And oh my God, do not get me started on that last one because it will be the death of me. This is the lazy avoidant perfectionist trait that I am the most afraid of within myself because I am so good. I've always been so good at convincing myself that I don't want things. And it's only recently that I realized that it was all a lie. Now that I know about this, I have to triple check every time to see if I actually want that thing or if I genuinely don't want it. But half of the time I actually do want that thing, which is terrifying. But anyway, yes, the lazy perfectionist deals with their perfectionism with so-called laziness. And I do put laziness in quotes here, and it's very important because it is not true laziness. Laziness is when it is Sunday around lunchtime and you're getting hungry and your fridge is full of food and you have plenty of time to cook, but you still decide to order food to be delivered to your house from a restaurant that is literally 10 minutes away. We've all been there. There's no need to be ashamed. It's okay to be lazy sometimes. But the point here is that that behavior is lazy. However, the laziness that makes you not take action regarding the things that you actually really want in life and the things that you really don't want to fail at, That's not laziness. That's 100% avoidance and self-sabotage. As such, the hack is actually to remove the perfectionism first, so then the laziness can disappear naturally. And that's quite counterintuitive, right? Because in today's world and in today's very pro-productivity environment, capitalist environment, you would think that between the perfectionism and laziness, it would be smarter to first tackle the laziness. But in the case of lazy perfectionists, which are actually avoidant perfectionists, you realize that there's just no other way than to tackle the perfectionism first. For that, and I'm sure most of you know this deep down, even though you maybe don't want to admit it to yourself, but the only way is to face your fear of failure, your fear of imperfection, your fear of making mistakes, and even possibly your fear of mediocrity. I have a video on that last one if you want. The goal is to become securely attached to any of your goals, aspirations, and dreams. Securely attached people understand that imperfection and failures and mistakes are not only an important part of the journey, but a necessary one. Accordingly, it gives them an extreme freedom to pursue their goals without debilitating avoidance or debilitating anxiety. Because securely attached people understand that all mistakes are lessons, that slow and steady wins the race, and that their worth will never be dictated by their ability to do things perfectly or seem perfect. Developing a secure attachment to anything when it's not what we had originally takes a lot of time, okay? So be patient, expect a lot of ups and downs. The journey is definitely not a linear one, but it's a worthy one. Also, try to have as much fun as you can along the way because you'll spend 90% of your time in the journey. So might as well have fun. All right, that's all for today. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and I will see you very, very soon in the next video. Bye.